Hi guys, welcome to another Platform 1 MRC weathering tutorial. Today we'll be looking at the Bachmann Presflo wagons. This is one of them here in tunnel cement livery. Fantastic model. You know, I can't say anything better than that really. It is just stunning with all the extra details on it. If you do compare this against the old Daypole wagons, or I really shouldn't say old because they're still available in kit form or ready to run form, they are light years ahead. Okay, you may pay a little bit more for them, but these three you see on the weathering bench here, I purchased in a 3-pack from Hatton's for I think about 26 or 27 pounds. Could have even been cheaper. Certainly cheaper without the VAT anyway, sent to Australia. Here's one of the Daypole wagons that I weathered up 6, 7, 8 months ago. You know, you can tell that the detail on it's not all that crash hot. Even the paint job, not exactly the same colour. What would you say, Indian red if you'd like, but you know, once a little bit of weathering goes on board, you know, we can tone down the Bachmann wagons, bring it back a little bit, but I'm sure I could do a better job than what I've done on these Daypole wagons here. Now I'm going to find these a little bit tricky to do, only because of all the extra details on it from this pipe that runs down the side here. You've got all the extra levers on here, the air release wheels and all that kind of gear. The undercarriage detailing is far superior to the Daypole model, so yep, it'll provide a challenge, but I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully you are too. Okay, just in the background here I've got 2 photographs from Paul Bartlett's of the tunnel cement Presflo wagons. This is what I'm going to use to detail my models with. As you can see, which I pointed out before, is all the rusty colours underneath the springs and all that, down around the bearings and everything, undercarriage and all that. Tone it down a little bit. The models that we do have, you know, it's pretty much a flat black under there, so we do need to tone that down a little bit or colour it up, you know, give it a bit of life. To start off a good base rust colour, it tends to be a little bit of a blacky orange colour, so I'm going to use a little bit of black weathering powder, use a container here that we can mix up in. Just grab some. It's actually more of a charcoal than a black, don't know where the black is actually, and there's a little bit of this here. It's a bit of a mix left over from the previous weathering that I've done on some of the other wagons, so just take that, give it a rub together, and you'll get that nice sort of like a burnt black, dry, rusty colour, as you can see in there. You know, it's not exactly black, it's not exactly red, but it will suffice for all the springs and the undercarriage on the wagon. Now, to apply it to the wagon, what we need to do is dip our brush in a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. What I've got here is a small cup. Spray a little bit of it in. That should do. Don't use too much of it as you go. It will evaporate. So just be very gentle with it. Just wet the brush a little bit. That's enough. Pick up your powders and just dab on where you think it needs to go. Well, I've already sprayed these wagons with a clear coat anyway. So hopefully these colours will soon lift. Just every now and then, I'm going to put it along the frames and all that anyway, under here and just underneath. It does look glossy, it does look a bit dry and all that, but that will give a rusty hue to it. I'll turn the wagon around, we'll just do the other side, a little bit more powder. You can see it actually going on wet around here. Just every now and then, I'll just dab it through here and up around the other springs. A finer brush would be better here. You can get into all the springs and all that, but for this purpose, we'll just go through and give it a bit of a clean up, I should say a dirty up rather than a clean up. And we'll just dab it on here a little bit more around the brake shoes, the undercarriage. Give the bottom of the wagon a bit of a coat as well. You know, it's where all that track grime and all that kind of flicks up from under the wagon. So it's quite awkward to get in behind here, but I'm sure we'll achieve good results. Oops. You know, you've got to think that the 3-foot rule will take precedence here once you've got these on the track. Now that's not looking too heavy, or actually too light. It's actually looking a little bit too light. So what I'm going to do is actually pick out a little bit of the rust now. Now I've got some left on here. Yep, that'll do. A little bit more isopropyl on the end of the paintbrush. Use a fine tip paintbrush for doing this sort of work. Just pick it up, little bits and pieces like that, and just bring it onto the springs. You don't need too much. As you can see there, it's come on there. And and dab dab dab, a little bit more isopropyl, a little bit more powder onto the springs. Just bring them up the colour. Turn around, do the other side. Now you don't have to apply it heavily right through on the wagon. Just lightly on some of them if you wish. A little bit of variation is always good. While you've got this out, why not apply a little bit of rust around the bodywork and all that. Rust does start deep and works its way through to the surface, so we can actually swap paintbrushes again. Make sure this one's dry before I carry on. I'll just use my hand. As you can see, plenty of black still on the brush there. So I'll just find my cloth here and I'll give myself a wipe down. Actually, I don't know where it's gone. Found my cloth. What I will do is use a bit of this tan colour here. We'll just throw a little bit out onto my little palette, you could say. Not too much, just enough. And that's going to be used just for dusting under the model, around the frames and all that kind of stuff. A bit more track rime. Again, a little bit more isopropyl on the brush. There's still a little bit of black ink in there, but or black dust I should say, that shouldn't worry too much. We'll just dab onto there. Now just underneath, from the bottom up, just work your way through the model and bring it up like so. Hopefully this will show up on the camera quite readily, or in the video I should say. But you can see the other colour starting to dry through now. You can see the rusting through there and all that kind of stuff. So I think we'll slowly get there. It will take a little bit of time to do this wagon, but I'm sure that the results in the end will speak for themselves. A little bit more brown under here. Try and get in underneath here. It doesn't matter how you do it, as long as you can get a bit of colour in under there. We will be going over that with a bit of other colour and all that. You can see here in the camera now that there is a bit of a shine on there, but that'll simmer down shortly. So just a little bit more dust and whatever along these frames here. Pick up a little bit more of the brown. Don't be afraid. The great thing about it, you can always thin it down a little bit with the isopropyl again. So it's a little bit heavy in there, so I'm going to thin it down. Always cotton tips. Great to have. If you think you're going on too heavy, let's just wipe it off a little bit. You know, and you can see how much muck we've picked up through there. Okay, so you know, even touch up the brake lever there. You know, they always get dirty, they're not always pure white, and we can just rub that down lightly. It's just a slight variation on the colour. While you're still wet, just run around the edge of the van or the wagon here, you know, where a little bit of dirt and muck might settle. Like I said, we will be going over this with a bit of white. We'll just take it around the front here, underneath the ladder, that area there in front. Dab dab dab, that's what you got to do. Throw a little bit through there. That should do it for now. I think I've gone all the way around. Actually a little bit more in through there. Okay, that'll be it for the browns I think at the moment. Most of your weathering in this is going to be with the blacks, greys and into the whites. Black staining, dirt, grottiness and all that kind of stuff, which will streak down the bottom half of the wagon, and the top part of the wagon up through where it says tunnel up here will be a lot more of the lighter colours. This is where the blacks will be down through here. I will end up using a broader brush, either one of these two here, just to try and get some streaking happening. So you know, you can see I can probably get that down through there okay. If I want to make the streaking a little bit broader, a little bit heavier, I can just tap that down through there. So I'll have a go with this brush and the other brush, either side of the wagon, to see which results turn out the best. Apply a bit of the blackened colour. I'm going to actually use what we got left from doing some of the underframe here, and I'll be using the mid-sized brush here. Always top up your isopropyl alcohol when you're doing this, you know, just dampen off the brush. Don't have it too wet. You're trying to create some streaks. As you can see, we can flick it down there on the whiteboard there, just to take some off the brush so it's not too heavy. Just rub it in, dampen it on. Now we're just going to sort of streak it down, hopefully not too heavy. It does look heavy at the moment. That will dry a little bit lighter. We'll just take a little bit up through here. You can see some of the streaking happening, and through the top. Won't really matter because, like I say, we're going to actually lighten this down a little bit. That does look a little bit heavy in there. Again, what you can do is, if you've got a clean brush, dip it in a bit of the alcohol and just drag it down a little bit. Take that away, that'll just thin it down somewhat. If you're still not happy with it, the old brush again, the old cotton tip works brilliantly. Now this is starting to stick in there pretty good now, so what I will do is actually dampen that a little bit under there. Just roll a bit of the moisture off and drag back through. The idea is not to have it too heavy, but still create a nice dirty looking model. I might leave it at that for now because we've created a bit of mess in there, which is probably ideal. We might throw a little bit more of the black up through the ends here, just if we can get a little bit on there. Yep, around the tunnel there. Now not only that, you can also come around the ends of the wagon, give that a bit of a streak. Okay, just in through there like so. And of course down along the bottoms here. A lot of muck also builds up under the wagon. I don't know if you can see that in there, so I'm just going to flick back this way under there. Actually dab it in underneath all this ribbing and all that you see here too. Okay, what we'll rotate the wagon back around the other side, do the same thing underneath first. I actually lost a bit of the liquid out of that, so we'll just dab it again. A little bit more powder, not too much, and just let it flow on. Again, whoops, more of the streaking down just slightly. It's probably a little bit too heavy. While it's still damp, I'm going to take a lot of that off. I might actually give this brush a go here, just, look at that. It's not too bad, there's a hair on there, but it still gives that streaky effect anyway. Now when you look around the whole wagon like so now, it's not looking too bad. There's the clean side. What I'll do, I'll use this brush now on the other side of the wagon, just to see what sort of difference we can make. Oop, needs more alcohol on here. Like I say, not too much, just a couple of squirts. Just enough to keep the bottom of the bowl wet. That's all you need. Okay. I can smell it on my fingers, but I can't actually see it, so it must be there. Okay, let's pick up some powders and we'll just run. Look at that. That brush doesn't fit all that well, but it is creating, you may have to put a bit more force onto it. It is creating some streaks. Not looking too bad, I suppose. Just turn the brush around if you have to. We'll leave it at that, not too much more, maybe. Now there's a hair on there, I don't know if you can see that. These cheap paintbrushes, look. Cheap paintbrushes are okay because once they're ruined you can always throw them out, but the better paintbrushes are, my old trusty red one that I've got here. I don't know what brand it is, as you can see. I've had it for some time and not much left on it. These other ones here, I can't even read what that says, even though I've got my glasses on. $6 or $7, compared to this whole brush here for about $3, or $3 I should say. So yeah, we're going to leave the wagon at that for now, and then we'll come back and we'll do a bit of white dusting over the top and come in with the heavier colours. Right, that's not looking too bad. You can see the colours come out onto the frames and all that underneath there, underneath the hopper there. It's not looking too bad at all. Our next stage is to whiten the wagon up with the cement spillage and all that kind of stuff. What I will do here, I've got another little pallet here, which is just a lid off a Chinese food container or something, whatever you'd like to call it, not being racist or anything. But we're going to take a bit of the white powders, put it out onto our pallet. It's actually not quite white, it's more of a grey. So we'll probably end up using more of this than any other colour. So that'll do for now. What we want to do is try and get all the white, dampened back around under the chassis here, on top of the chassis, under the ladder, down the ladder, and along the top edges. All this ribbing in here, that's where we need to have the powder sit. As you can imagine, it all flows down from the wagon, from the top here when they're filling the wagon, and we'll work from there, and we're going to work our way up. Alright, just check out how our moisture's going here with the isopropyl. No, need more. I mean, I've had this container now probably for a good year and a half now. Done a few models with it and it seems to be lasting okay. What I will do is swap over the brush. I'll go to the smaller brush now, my old trusty Fred. We're going to dampen that a little bit. Just wet it in. Not too wet. Take a little bit off. Just use your hand to take it off. Now a little bit of the white powders. Now this is just going to be applied on the ladder, like so. Now we will drop it in. Just dampen it on here. Not too heavy. Like I say, that the colours will come out on that, but it will blend in a little bit. Probably actually go a little bit heavier than that. We'll just drop it in. You can see what I've done there, just in on the base there. We'll come around here. Now you tend to have a bit of rubbish and all that around here. A little bit more powder. Now, doesn't matter if the powder looks a bit grainy on there, as you'd imagine it probably would be. Being cement, it's going to dry fairly coarse anyway. So let's leave it at that. Not too bad, not too shabby. Yep, I mean that's just been sparingly put on through those. I think they're air reservoirs there, and around the back here, up through the ladder there. Not too bad. What you can do if you're not too happy with the ladder, just give it a streak with your brush here, and just take it off there a little bit. That's just thinned it down where the railwayman would be climbing up and over the top. Actually a little bit over the top of these ribs here. Whoop, don't want to really put on there yet, but anyway, that'll do that. Now to apply it to the actual ribs here, we're going to go back to our other brush, the broad, I suppose it's 10mm wide brush, 3/8 of an inch. We'll dampen ourselves again with it and pick up some powders and just run down over the ribs like so. Doesn't matter how thick you put this on, probably the thicker the better, because that's where it's going to be sitting anyway. Come up through the top here, just brush it on. Be careful not to take it in too far over the model. We need some more powders on there. And just touch it up. A bit more powder. This is where I said earlier we'll probably end up using a lot more of this powder than anything else on this model. That's not too bad through there. It also sits down on this rib down the bottom here. A little bit more moisture, a little bit more powder. You can just see once I get this in here, it's starting to highlight up a little bit. Okay, you can just throw a bit in through there. Just give a bit of a blow. And take a look at that. It's starting to come together a little bit now. You can even go just touch these up a little bit, just very lightly. Oops, touch the tripod there. How's that? Cling. Just on that framing there, like so. Okay, and we'll go around to the other side. Check the isopropyl. Yep, run it out again. As I said, it evaporates fairly quickly. It's warm here in Sydney today. There we go. A little bit more of a dip, a little bit more powder, and that flooded on a little bit there, probably a little bit too much, but that's okay. Bit of variation is good. Now when you do this, don't forget to do the ends as well. Don't just do the side of the wagon. Work yourself around. Pick up some of the powder, throw it on, and like so. If you think you got a little bit on there too much, that's not really a problem. You can just try and brush it off a little bit, thin it down with the other brush, or again on the stick. It just looks like a bit more spillage on there, that's all. We'll leave it at that. Come around to the ends now. Try and get this powder onto here. And that should do it. It's starting to look like a weathered wagon now. Really all we've got to do now is just go over these panels in through here, across the top there, dirty that up a bit, panels again, and through the top. We can actually drag some of that down into these other dark areas that we've got here, and then I think we're almost done. Apart from on top of the, some of this gear down here could always do with a little bit of a covering, a bit of a splattering of cement dust. Alright, what we'll do now, I'll just give that brush a bit of a wipe, and we'll have a go at doing the roof and down through the sides there. That shouldn't be too bad to do really. I mean, it's fairly flat, fairly straightforward, but we're going to use probably a couple of different colours here. We'll go in with the light greys first, then we might mix it in with a bit of a mid grey. What I'm using here, then we'll go into one of these darker greys such as this. I know the bags look red from the other powders, but I can always get a little bit out and show you guys. Okay, the brush is not too bad. Just give this model a blow. There you go, look at that. It's not looking too bad at all really. All the cement that normally builds up on these wagons. If you do think it's a bit too heavy around the edges there, you can always take your brush again, a little bit of isopropyl, and just drag some of the heaviness out of the model, and that should tidy it up a bit. Okay, we'll work on the roof and work our way down the wagon. Now, as you can imagine, there'd be a lot of build up around all these parts in through here, where the hatches are and all that. We will slowly build that up as we go. There's no point building it up now and getting carried away with it. So what we're going to do is just on the wagon, just under there, just streak it back. Take your brush between this handle here, okay, when you're doing it, and you should be able to get a better pull on the subject anyway, on the muck that's coming down out of there. Like I say, if it's a bit heavy, just thin it down a little bit with the brush. A little bit of wet isopropyl, just touch up again. And we might leave that, I think a little bit more around these hatches here will probably do the trick. We're just running out a little bit of isopropyl there. I'll just dab it in there, pick up some powders again, and there. Okay, while we're on this side, let's just drag this down through the wagon lightly. Oh, need some more powder. Especially, I think, around where these hatches are, you know. That's where you're going to get most of your spillage, you know, coming down through there. We might leave that side as that for the time being. As you can see, it's a bit thin still around here, so let's just dab that in there a little bit, try and bring that down. On the pictures I've got in front of me, this hose pipe that runs up through here on top of the wagon, it's got a fair bit of cement on it anyway. So look, we'll leave it at that. We're starting to get a dirty looking wagon. Come around to the ends here. Probably, you know, you're going to get just as much muck on the end here. So we're just going to drag it down like so. While the powders are still wet, let's throw a bit more on. Well, I should say the wagon's still wet. That'll do that. And don't forget, oops, touch up these sections here. You can imagine a bit of cement dust coming down on top of that. It's not looking too bad as it is right now. Back to the other side. A little bit more moisture. How are we going? Yeah, we've got a little bit left in there. Yep, I can see picking up on here. Whoops, hit the camera. Not real crash hot. And we'll just drag that down. Always around the hatches first, and bring that down through there. I think working around the hatches is probably a good thing first, because that's where the bulkier mess is coming from. So we'll just lightly bring that back through here. There's nothing to intrude the dust in here, the weathering. There's no pipes or anything like that, so I actually think some of that might be just a tad too heavy, but look, we'll leave it at that. Let's do these ends. Not enough powder here. Just grab some more powder. Oh, runaway wagon. As you can see also, up in these corners here, I haven't got the paintbrush right up under the walkway there. That'll have to be touched up. So we can do that anyway. A little bit more liquid isopropyl IPA in our container. Not too much. I do about 3 or 4 squirts at a time. Save it all drying out. Saves a bit of money too. Actually, I mean, that little bottle I think was about $14–15, and what is it? It's only I think it's 100–150 mils, if that. So yeah, I mean 125 mils. There you go. Still goes a long way, but you know, you save a few bucks here and there, all the better. Okay, we're just gonna dab this back under here and drag it down. As you can see, you got built. There's a bit of a gap in the moulding here, so we might have to fill that in a little bit with the with the powders, like so. We'll turn the wagon around and we'll pick up some more dust here and we'll just streak it down again. Make sure you get your paintbrush right under the walkway there. Okay, that should do that. Alright, time to give the hatches a bit of a once over really. What I'm going to do is dab it on through the hatches here at the moment, like so. Pick it up while it's still wet, throw it on. You can see it's starting to pick up fairly thick there. If you look closely there, I'll come in, I hope it's not too blurry, you can start seeing some thicker layers of powders building up. You can give the wagon a clear coat when you're finished. It will take a bit of the colour off the wagon though, you know, tend to dull it down a little bit as well. I'm just going to fill in some of these ends here, as you can see. It's I'll flick back the other way and just in around it, more water, isopropyl I should say, more liquid, and a little bit more in around the ladder and all that. Yeah, there we go. Not looking too bad really. We could probably go in with a bit of a darker colour now. Some of these other areas up in the corners here, they could go over a little bit more. Okay, we'll just flick that down, flick that down. Even if we turn the wagon upside down and give it we let that build up in there. It won't take long to dry. You can actually see the liquid building up in there anyway. So what we can do is add some powder to that. That'll just build up a couple of layers in there, make it a little bit chunkier looking. Well, that's not too bad at all. I think the white needs toning down a little bit. That's where we're going with the darker greys. Overall, you know, it's actually come a long way from. Just uncouple that one. You can see a bit of a difference between the two wagons now. One's in service, one's could say straight out of the factory after a bit of tunnel cement branding. Alright, a little bit of a darker colour. I'm just going to go this one here. It's sort of as you can see, it's more of a grey cement colour compared to the white cement. So what we'll do, a little bit more powder. Yep, you can see it's actually picked up a little bit darker there, and every now and then we'll just lightly bring it in. Even if you dab the brush on vertically and dab down the sides here, you're starting to get a bit of an effect now. Not looking too bad actually. Turn the wagon around. Much of the same. Brush on its side. It is a broad brush, and what you can do there is go back to your broader brush here perhaps and just drag that off a bit. If you find it's a bit heavy, I don't know. It's much of muchness really. It's your choice. This is only a tutorial showing how I do it. Okay, a little bit more moisture, a little bit more of the dark grey, runaway wagon, and we'll just you can see some of the colour building up in there now. Roll the brush over. Okay. That's not looking too bad at all. A bit dark in through there, so but I wouldn't mind bring that up a bit further. What we might do is swap brushes now, and maybe apply it with a finer brush here. Here we go. We are running out of isopropyl once again. I'll just put the wagon down. As you can see, nothing's really come off my hands. I go a little bit there, probably from just running backwards and forwards, picking things up. You can give this a couple of minutes, you know, or a couple of seconds to dry in between actually, which will help with the curing of it. Now let's just You see that through there? Not quite enough. Let's dampen that brush a bit more and pick up more of this powder. Here we go. Couple of streaky bits. There we go. Overall, I think I've achieved a pretty good result. Perhaps a little bit more dark weathering on the model itself. We'll just come back over this side and drag some of these streaks down. Yeah, we'll leave that as that. Now, like I said before, you do get a lot of build up of cement in and around the hatches here. So what we might do there is apply a little bit more of the cement. Now what I will do here is, I've got this old paintbrush here. This might do the trick. Actually, which one is it? This one. As you can see, it's fairly damaged, fairly well used. So what I'm going to do is pick up some of this in chunk form, as you can see, like that. We're just going to throw it in around the model like so. Okay. Whoops. Get the camera there. You can see I've actually formed fairly heavy lumps of cement through there. Pick up some more lumps. Just take that off there, so we can deposit that onto there, like so. Right, I think just a few little touch-ups here and there, and I think we're just about done. Looks like a fairly weathered wagon. As you can see, the streaking is pretty inconsistent. If you think that is a bit too heavy in there, just take the other brush, give a bit of a clean, pick up a little bit of isopropyl, and look, you can just drag that out a little bit. And while it's like that, just go back over with the cotton tip and just smooth that down a little bit. Create a few more streaks in the rooftop. Again, maybe down that end. Hey guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. The batteries went dead in the camera. Where we're up to before the batteries went flat, I was tidying up along the roof here, along the top here where the streaks are. I do find that might be a little bit heavy for what we want in there. We could probably thin that down a little bit using a bit of the isopropyl again, and just a broad paintbrush. Actually, what I'll do, I'll actually use the other paintbrush. We'll just dab that in there, and I'll take a cotton tip. I'll take a clean one this time, just to thin this out a little bit. So we'll just thin it down, just run it in occasionally, not too strong, and just drag that back through. Still gives us the streaks we're after, but probably not as heavy. So what we'll do, we're just going to take a bit out of that. You can see under here where it's a little bit grayer, a bit more colour in there, a bit more texture. Overall, the wagon's come up pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the way it looks. How it'll look in a rake of trains, I'm sure, or a rake of carriages, I should say, it should look okay. Now, when you compare the two that we've got here, the one that's done and the one that's not done, there is a remarkable difference. There we go, guys. Take a look at that. Now, I'm pretty sure you guys can achieve this at home. As you can see, it takes a little bit of time to knock over one wagon, but hey, the results speak for themselves. Anyway, that's it for now. I'm sure you guys have learned something, and until next time, cheers.